to welcome everybody to the Tuesday, May 22nd, 2018 Board of Health meeting. First thing I'd like to say is I'd like to congratulate and both welcome our two new members, Diane Mortensen and Chris Daniele. Thank you for your volunteering and service. I hope we can be productive and do what we need to do. And obviously, John, thank you for being here as well and continuing on the Board of Health.
Same to you.
And welcome.
Thank you.
And Tom, our assistant food manager or part-time food manager, is also joining us tonight, Tom Curran, with some information later on. Due to the fact that one of our board members is out of town on some personal business, I'd like to make a motion to delay reorganization of the board until that fifth member is here with respect to him. Do I have a second for that?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay. Great. So that passes. And Mark, I'm sure you have something you'd like to say.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And God, I'd be speechless for a moment, huh? And again, congratulations to Diane and re-election Chris.
Thank you, Mark.
We have now a breath of fresh air, formulated minds, and all togetherness now. And yes, a couple of the things out there that I usually do my watchdog on is on the agenda. And everything else is going well. I was wondering, Mr. Chair, through you, I would like to say, you and the rest of the board, the last 2.5 years, you finally came through and survived. Mr. John, you kind of kept your nerves and shoulder neatly in, Mr. John Featherston. Yes, you let me speak now. I hope your voice, I hope your mind's resettled back down to calmness again.
I don't think I was uncalm, so
No, but it kind of was pushed.
offended and angry for the town, yes,
Yeah.
but not uncalm, yes.
And to Mr. Chris Danielle, you had a little bit of a taste. Try to be formally compromising and try to get to every point of the matter to get to a positive area. That will feed off to you, Ms. Diane Wilkerson. Carry the name forward and be proud.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, on to number 4, the tobacco sales permit request. You want to?
Yeah, the board, if you look at our last set of minutes, if you want to look at those, they're in your packet. When we discussed that, the board did ask that the potential applicant, well, not potential, the applicant, come by and review their request for the tobacco permit. I just went out of line here, but, so, we expect Mr. Yosef will be here at 7:30, and
Okay.
we have Tom here, Tom Curran, our food inspector, who hopefully we can have him review the 2013 food code, and Tom's here, so if the board doesn't mind, I suggest we go right to Tom and review that. And Tom, you have a handout you noted.
Yeah, I'd just like to pass this along. This is it was a PowerPoint done by the State Department of Public Health Director Michael Moore, and it kind of just gives you a highlight of the differences between the 1999 food code, which is state law currently, and the 2013 federal food code, which is in the workings or in draft stages to be hopefully implemented into law. So just pass those down. Each of you can be welcome to take one.
Thank you. I'm assuming you don't need one of these.
Oh,
Or do
I
you-
always
yeah,
enjoy
you're all-
reading.
Okay.
Mark, would you like one? We'll keep one for the records. well, just so the board knows, I asked Tom to be here tonight. I was at a conference last week, and one of the speakers, Lisa Berger, was going over the possibility for cities and towns in Massachusetts to adopt the 2013 code. And with that said, I'm still learning from what Tom has provided information on that code, but it would be a leap and bound from the 1999 food code. But I'll let Tom present from here, but we're not alone in respects to states that have not adopted the 2013 code, which is recommended by many professionals and myself.
And actually, if you do, just based on what Mark just said, it actually gives you a schematic of states in the entire continental United States and what codes that those states use. So there are states that even use more antiquated codes than Massachusetts. See one that's using the 1995 food
Arizona,
code, for example.
Nevada.
It might be.
It was one of those. It was amazing.
I'm not sure. I think it might be.
No big deal, Tom. That was just.
Oklahoma, but one of the interesting takeaways, and a lot has changed since 1999 when the code that the Commonwealth uses was implemented. And one of the things that's changed, and I'm sure you've heard in the recent news, was what constitutes a potentially hazardous food or a temperature control for safety is the way that the 2013 code addresses it. A temperature control for safety food, and one of them that they adapted or added to it was the cut leafy greens, lettuce, spinach, and the reason for that is there's been a tremendous amount of outbreaks since 1999 associated with produce, particularly more recently spinach, cut romaine lettuce. The issue that we recently had with the romaine lettuce from Arizona. The lettuce, typically during the off-season, most of the romaine lettuce in the country is sourced from Arizona during the winter, and then it switches over to California in the spring. So right before that kind of transition, earlier this spring, there was a multi-state outbreak of E. coli directly linked to the romaine lettuce. So we're seeing that. We're also being more cautious, and Mark will tell you about cut produce, particularly sliced tomatoes, cut lettuce. It's essential that operators hold those at the proper holding temperatures, and that things aren't temperature abused in the sense that people sometimes make the mistake of not accounting for temperature loss during the prep step. The produce is refrigerated. It's refrigerated when it arrives to the establishment. It's stored under refrigeration. However, when it's removed from refrigeration and prepped at room temperature, that opens up the propensity for the temperature to elevate. I'm thinking of more recent experiences conducting inspections with grab-and-go items, people making cut ready-made salads, packing those vegetable and produce components into a insulated plastic grab-and-go container, and then introducing it to retail sale without a cooling step in between. So you're having someone cut and prepare a salad and then packaging it without a cooling step. There might be an elevation of up to 54, 55 degrees. They're packaging it and they're putting it out to retail in a refrigerated case. However, before it crosses that line out to retail, it should have been cooled prior. It can't be cooled, in transit, so to speak. So that was one of them with the produce. The other thing, and Mark and I were talking about this, before we used to have what was called critical violations and non-critical violations. So the difference between cross-contamination, chicken juice leaking onto sliced American cheese, or a broken doorknob or a missing floor tile. And that was the 1999 code. In the 2013 code, we have what we call priority, which is formerly the critical priority foundation, which is kind of intermediary, critical. An example would be a broken thermometer or a inoperable hand sink, and other, capital improvement things, infrastructure failures. And core are the floors, walls, and ceilings violations, maintenance issues, improper storage of janitorial tools, things of that nature. So it kind of more clearly defines, from a food safety standpoint, what the areas of concern are, and it's more paralleled with preventing foodborne illness. It clarifies for the operators what the expectations are, what to do, what not to do,
Which, to lead on from that, which was not always completely defined in the 1999 food code. But at the juncture when they created the food code, they said every 2 years at the federal level, we'll update the food code. And unfortunately, Massachusetts, and it's for some strange reason, which I do not know, has not moved forward with the every 2-year updates. But so they're leaving it up to cities and towns. It's been recommended by the leader at the Massachusetts Department of Public Health Food Protection Program. That's Michael Moore, the person that wrote some of this information, but unfortunately it hasn't been changed. So down the road, I would like, as we discuss this, to have the board consider adopting this code, have a public discussion, invite our restaurants, learn more about it, and I think it's only appropriate that we go with the these new standards, which we are bringing ourselves up to the point where we should be. We should have been doing this with the state many years ago. And also, there's a trend now that communication is going so fast that we're learning more from what we hear out in the field. There's people blogging food poisoning cases, and if we don't keep up with industry standards, we're falling behind, and that communication will get directed to us and we'll be asked, why have you not been keeping up to date? So we have that leverage at the local level, as we have with tobacco and other regulations, to adopt the 2013 code after appropriate public discussion. So I'd recommend that, and there's many other standard items that would be brought up to today's expected format, including HACCP, which is Hazardous Analysis Critical Control Points, which were part of that 1999 food code, but not as defined as in the 2013 food code. And as I said, I had the overview from Lisa Berger, and she was talking about the various lawsuits as well that are being not challenged, but being brought to the courts because of the fact that we're not following higher standards than what we should. So another area we should always be conscientious of, because unfortunately sometimes you learn by lawsuits, and we don't want to be at that level. We want to be proactive, not reactive. So that's why I asked Tom to be here for any questions and answers. Tom has been doing our food inspections now for what, 2.5, 3 years, Tom?
2 years, yeah.
Yeah.
2 years.
Gone
Yeah.
fast, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has,
He's doing
yeah.
a fantastic job, and he's right to the point, but he works with our vendors, and he's a world of knowledge when it comes to food, because Tom works in that field full-time as well. So if you have questions, that's why I asked Tom to be here, and I'll ask that he join us if the board so wishes to have a public hearing discussion on this matter.
Yeah, I find it interesting that we're looking at moving from the 1999 code to the 2013 code, and it's 2018. So it kind of shows how progress is really slow. And to your point, Mark, in higher education, we're seeing a similar type of thing in terms of lawsuits with ADA code. So I think it's prudent that we look into it. I think it might be helpful as we move forward and we get to the point of public forums, that in addition to something like this, that maybe there'd be a sheet that compares 1999 to 2013, so people see the differences. That would probably be handy for restaurant owners as well.
If you, this kind of does that, so it
Does it?
has a, on each page, it'll reference what the prior code said and then what the current code, or the proposed 2013 code
Great.
states about the changes to the law. And yeah, you make a good point. When you're using antiquated public health rationale to engage enforcement, people are going to challenge you. I think Mark might have been at a seminar with me probably about, I want to say 6 months ago, and one of the speakers was a food industry lawyer who was a graduate of Cornell and has been in the industry. I think he has a food science degree. He's a Juris Doctorate. This is how he makes a living, litigation with local boards of health and challenging folks, and we do get challenged. So it's imperative that we're operating off of a foundational code that's up to par with what's transpired since 1999, and a lot has.
I would hope that our food establishments would go into this knowing that they don't want to have their customers get sick. So
That's what I was gonna ask.
Right.
Is this gonna come to a surprise for establishments? I mean, this wouldn't be surprising if the board.
Thankfully, no, because the Serve Safe, we mandate people to have a certified food protection manager, and thankfully those the curriculum that they use is reflective of more recent codes, in the 2013 code. So, for instance, the Serve Safe is one of them that offers the manager certification, and they already refer to potentially hazardous foods as TCS foods, temperature control for safety, and the 1999 code refers to them as potentially hazardous foods. So a lot of the managers are already up to par with the more recent code, which is good. So it wouldn't come as a surprise to them, thankfully, yeah. And we are too. I mean, the other thing is the danger zone. What we call the danger zone is changed. The old code was 41 degrees to 140, and the more recent one is 41 degrees to 135. So I know if I have a hot holding issue and it temps out at 138 degrees, I can give them a little leeway because it's scientific knowledge, current scientific knowledge that's kind of acceptable. But and from an enforcement and legalistic standpoint, yes, it's 140 or above for hot holding. So.
And that's a good point. As the industry changes to meet the new food code, the equipment they buy, say for an example, a large grocery chain, may be set at 135 or basically manufactured to meet that, where our code says 140. So to standardize with the rest of the country is very important in my view, and it's most important is what Tom said, it's scientific based, and we should keep moving on with the science.
Now, what would be our next step? We have to set a public hearing date, is that what we'd have to do?
Yeah, I was in discussion with the town or city of Milton at the conference I went to last week. She was going to send me how they went about it, but there's the city of Newton, I believe, has done this as well. So we're going to find out how they went about it, but when it comes to regulation change, usually we try to involve whoever it may affect the best we can. This would be the food facilities, food establishments, so probably have a public discussion of some format. We could have a public hearing, but then that requires advertising and there could be cost, and we're not required to on regulation review. The only time we're required to have a public hearing is if we change anything related to septic system codes. Outside of that, we can have public discussion, as we did back even when you were here, Diane, for tobacco and so forth.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, obviously it's important. Should we just pick a time to do it?
Can
And just
it
move
be
forward.
included within the purview of a meeting, or does it need to be a separate
Well,
entity?
again,
It
in
can
the
be-
past, we did both, but I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I was asking if we expected a lot of, I mean, if people are expecting this, it should be a fairly simple meeting is what I'm thinking. If they're anticipating it coming at some point. But I mean, if we have to just set a meeting date, notify all the food establishments, I think we should move forward with it because it's obviously important. And like you said, bring it up at least to 2013.
Maybe the state will move quicker. I mean, I have also attached a draft of the regulations that the state is proposing, and they hopefully
And it
they
does adopt in that,
yeah.
the 2013 food code.
And then the state has some exclusive codes that they'll merge with the 2013 code, and as we know, it's the allergen awareness requirement, the choke save, and the embargo and condemnation authority that we possess as or Mark possesses as health agent. Mark has the authority to embargo and issue condemnations as the health agent, so that would not change. So there are a few things
Bed
that
and breakfasts.
Yeah.
Massachusetts enforces that code. The other point I was going to bring about is that we are looking to update our hardware as it relates to, and software, I should say software too, as it relates to the food inspection program. So Tom and I have reviewed 2 programs presently. We're looking to interview one other digital type program and see what would fit if we do decide on adopting the 2013 code.
If I may. Just based off of experience, that a night away for a restaurant owner is tough, especially on a Tuesday. And thanks, Tom, for bringing this tonight. But I mean, this is an extensive document. Is this document available digitally?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So what I would suggest, and it's just a suggestion, is that we make this available to all of our restaurant owners and food handlers. And you bring up a good point, a bed and breakfast, the Warren Conference Center, the one-day event type of people, that they get an opportunity to vet this, because, I mean, this is an extensive document.
That's a good point.
There's penalties in here that I wasn't aware of, and there's some new regulations in here and some new language. And I don't know, what do we give the restaurants, 30 days to review it? And then
That's fair.
and then,
I think
and
that-
then because it's difficult for a restaurant owner to take a Tuesday off, because most restaurant owners aren't off on Tuesdays, they're inside the restaurants. Maybe we have 2 hearings. Maybe we hold one on a Tuesday, and maybe we hold one on a Thursday, to be fair. And, to Diane's point, is this gonna be a surprise? Because I think it would be a surprise to a lot of restaurant owners. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't know. Now you're coming in and holding me accountable. At least now we give them the opportunity to have the information, and we give them the opportunity to have 2 different hearings. Maybe we hold one in a regular scheduled meeting that we have, and then for other people who didn't make it, kind of make it, I don't want to use the word mandatory, but highly encouraged that you make either this meeting or that meeting to be looked up. And it's got to be fair, because
Yeah, certainly it would be a surprise to them, before we would want them to review
but the good thing
proposed
is they all
changes,
have they always have an opportunity to review
Right.
the document before they actually come here
Exactly,
and learn
yeah.
about it.
And thankfully,
And
like
then
I
I think it
said,
leads to a healthier conversation as well,
Right, of
too.
course, yeah.
Shows good faith on our part,
Yeah.
too, I think.
Just thinking a little bit more, if there are any significant changes that they need to make as far as even their hardware equipment, financial outlay, how would that work with implementation of not only the new 2013 reform, but also how much time do you give these restaurateurs time to accomplish that if there's any significant cost involved and time that they need to acquire equipment or whatever other resources they need?
well, I mean, a lot of the training that they've already received, again, through the certified food manager, is based off of the new proposed 2013 code, so they would have some knowledge already about what the requirements were, but
Terminology has changed.
Yeah.
If it was prior, when we adopted 1999 the food code, then there was equipment change. There was cost involved, and I believe there was a blending in of that code, but since then, it's been more science-based, and if there's any equipment change that I can think of, it might be having appropriate equipment for cleaning up from a spill, might it be diarrhea or vomiting?
Right.
That, I don't think is that expensive, having the appropriate documents on hand for material safety data sheets, which they should have anyways. But as it relates to large expenses such as a refrigerator or warming units, I don't think they're gonna see any at all. If anything, the temperature for holding that hot is reduced, so there's gonna be a little area that, but outside of general equipment, I don't think they're gonna see any major issues. They have to post have a posting in their store saying their report's available for viewing, so the public knows, almost like truth in your time there. So those type of things would be more, not costly, but more procedural.
Do we have email contacts for?
Yeah, that's a good point. For all of them, we do. So we
We
can
can
send
just
this
blast
out.
this out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
blast it out.
I think that strengthens, John, your position of giving them time to review this document, because in that time, before they come to spend time with us, if there are situations that they feel are gonna cost them money or would take time to transition, they'd be able to figure that out in that period of time and come back to us. And then I think that, in terms of when we decide, if we decide to implement it, then we could build in an effective time period to give them ample time to ramp
I
up.
think that's a great, yeah.
That makes
I was gonna
sense.
say, Mark, and like, I think all the regulations that was available on, it was always, you set it, you improve the regulations, you give them X amount of time to transition into it, so it wouldn't be.
Hypothetically, January 1st.
Yeah, exactly, so they would have plenty of notice, even if it was an education that they had to get, so.
And Mark brought up a good point about there is an adaptation of the new 2013 code for the requirement for the blood spill and the kits to clean up vomiting or diarrheal events to prevent spread of pathogens, particularly norovirus, when it comes to the vomiting. So there's a whole new section too, as well, on Norwalk-like viruses and norovirus, or what we commonly know as a 24-hour bug, to prevent spread of that. So that might be, a cost to the operators, but any significant capital costs, will probably be very minimal. But again, it's
Even one thing that jumped out at me when I was flipping through here,
Yeah.
is just even the sushi, I mean, you and I. we've
Right.
had a couple,
Yeah.
a couple incidences where we've had to deal with sushi in town. And I think even sushi bars would be interested in reading those regs.
Yeah.
Because they're a little bit different than what they normally used to be.
Mhm.
So I think it'd be good. Like I said, maybe we do one on a Tuesday and we do one on a Saturday morning or something like that too.
and one of the other
As long as we have a quorum, we can
from a practical standpoint, one of the other interesting things that they bring up was the proposal to allow sort of piggybacking of permits, in the sense that using a kitchen as a shared kitchen or a business incubator. And the reason they're doing that is because they've seen that a lot of local municipalities have already adopted local ordinances allowing that. Like, for instance, I know in Boston, there's a business incubator, it's called Commonwealth Kitchen. It's a base for food trucks and startups. Actually, one of the startups is a participant regularly in our farmers market here in Ashland, Lindigo Spice Company. That's where they're based out of. So they see, the importance of allowing multiple operators to have a shared use facility as a business incubator, whereas in the past, it's kind of a gray area. And it's also a lot of, churches, VFWs, things of that nature. They have these full built-out commercial kitchens, and they're not getting use out of them, and they want to, to have an opportunity for a revenue stream for a nonprofit. So, they participate in using their kitchen as a business incubator for small businesses. So there's a proposed supplemental to the Massachusetts adaptation of the 2013 code in the draft to allow a little bit more leeway for local boards of health to grant licensure, to a commercial kitchen to have multiple operators in the same facility, assuming that they adhere to, food safety protocols and they have certified people overseeing operations.
Good stuff. That's great. Thank you.
And I was gonna say, as we move along, hopefully some vendors will show. And down the road, as we progress with the program, I'd like to see additional training for like when the electricity goes out, that type of training, what to do, power outage, might it be even storm damage. And we can also move forward with discussion, hopefully down the road, of knowledge. I find knowledge to be the most critical part of this code, and it requires one full-time certified food manager be on staff, but that's it. And what I have discussed with the board in the past is there are other towns, I know Burlington's one of them, where if a food establishment is open and they're preparing food, or if they're closed and preparing food, there should be at least one certified food manager on site that has that knowledge, because I'm finding, and I don't know, Tom, how you're seeing it, but I find that there's too much lack of knowledge if the certified food manager is not on site with some of the facilities, not all. Some do a good job, others just don't have the time. And others may lose their certified food manager for a month or two, and, you know, it's catch-up time. And so I think down the road, we could bring that into the food establishment review oversight, or food establishment oversight. And Tom would be good to have here for some of that discussion as well.
Yeah, I think to that, I know there are at least a couple of food establishments in our town that run other establishments in other towns too. And that becomes difficult in terms of management. And, you know, so it's something to think about. And
Good. I'm glad that's a very important one too.
yeah.
No, I was just gonna make a motion that we instruct staff to digitally send this out to all of our retail food establishments, and we'll, along with that, set a save the. So what are we thinking? July, August?
If we're going to adopt this so that it's available starting in, say, January 1st, I think that's appropriate. We would probably want to try to get them. Summer may be a difficult time. It always is. They say if you go to, I think a common practice has been, if we're looking at adopting regulations, we start September, finalize by December, and so forth, or finalize by October, send them out, get everyone ready.
So then send this out to staff, or send this out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And then with the caveat that there will be 2 highly recommended that you attend. I once had a boss who said, hope is not a plan, it's just hope. You know, but, you know, strongly worded, you know, like we encourage you to attend, you know, to be announced September meeting, so at least people know that there's a plan in place. It's evolving, but I think the faster we get this out, the better.
I agree with you.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And that answered my question as well, when you think it could be implicated type, or,
I think September, we have some discussion meetings and move forward to adopt it by October for a start date of January 1st.
okay.
My concern is that people, if you send it out now, people are gonna lose the interest between now and September. But that just,
We can always
Send reminders.
We can always blast that. I bet you it's a very
I mean,
good
if
point.
we're not
It's a
gonna
very
have a
good
public
point.
hearing until September, we're sending it out in May.
But then
Yeah,
maybe we
but
blast it out now.
I'm just
No,
throwing
it's
it
a
out
great
there that
point.
it might be something that we wait until July. You know,
Or we could blast them a couple times.
Yeah, but I just wanna make sure that,
You know,
Because it doesn't cost
Keep-
anything.
yeah. The reason I say
It's
that,
a very good point.
Yeah.
But I-
ironically,
as soon as we put the information in
If you
there.
get feedback, I guess, from this and see what people might not say anything.
I'd rather
Because they
give
might be
people too much
expecting it.
information than not enough, is kind of like where I was going.
Yeah.
Because as you go into the restaurants, you can add it to part of your inspection process.
Of
Hey,
course, yeah.
Did you get the email? No, maybe, you know. maybe
Do
they
some
didn't.
outreach,
Maybe we didn't get
absolutely.
it, You know, so,
Yeah.
I think more is better than,
Yeah, you know-
but I appreciate the point.
Yeah, it's a great point, because we have to discuss all the time.
Well, I mean, maybe we should set a September hearing date for it now, so at least we can include that in there, that we're, the first public hearing will be in September and give people an opportunity. I mean, if it's the first meeting in September on a Tuesday, do a Thursday, you know, just set it now, so if we keep blasting people between now and then, we're reminding them the date.
if we keep on our
Plenty of time to reschedule.
Sure.
Tuesday, the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday are September 4th and the 18th. Just knowing the first meeting after Labor Day is always been challenging. I would suggest September 18th.
Well, the first Tuesday after Labor Day is an election day. It's
Oh,
primary.
can't have a meeting.
Can't have a meeting that day, right?
So, thank you. I didn't know that.
So shoot for the 18th then?
Or do we, or that month, do we want to go? Yeah, I think that would be best, the 18th.
Okay. Sounds good. Does that have to be a formal motion, or is that
The
okay?
board could add that to the vote if you so wish.
I'll add that to my
As an
vote.
addendum.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
We'll blast them a couple times. It doesn't hurt. Takes a button. Not a good button.
So, agenda item 4, tobacco sales permit request.
And just so the board knows, the previous meeting we had, and Diana, unfortunately, she's seen the minutes, but she wasn't here, was to have the vendor, was one of the votes, to come in and explain their wish to be seeking this permit. They were on the waiting list, so they're next in line. It's our first time ever we had a waiting list, and so the board wanted them to just give an overview, I believe, of their plans and knowledge of the regulations. George, which one are you? Are you George? Okay. If you can come on, you can sit at the table. I think it'd be more comfortable.
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
sure.
Yeah.
Please.
Just gotta
Bring a
slide a
chair
mic
up.
over. Can we borrow Tom's mic?
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you.
Thank you for coming.
You are so important. You're
Oh,
getting
thank
two
you.
of them. You're-
Thank you.
Who's your friend?
This one or this one?
Either one.
Yeah, okay. Oh. My brother Raymond.
Good evening, how are you?
Yeah, Tom, you're okay. Thank you so much. We'll
Thanks,
keep in
Tom.
touch.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
You wanna stay till 10?
No, I don't want to stay.
Ann? Who's that guy about that?
Thanks again, Tom.
Can I start?
Yes,
Should I say who I am?
sure.
Yeah, my name is George Youssef. I'm the owner of the gas station in Homer Ave. I've been here since 2004. I used to have a store, convenience store in my gas station since 2004 till 2012, I think. We were in processing changing ownership on the gas station, so I didn't renew my license. So after we did the renovation on the gas station and we changed everything in 2015, I think, I came to renew my license, like maybe 2 years ago, and I came here and they, like Mark said, I lost my license because I didn't renew it. So I didn't know. At that time I didn't know if I don't renew my license I will lose it. So and now we renew the gas station and I did open little convenience store. So I'm just trying to see if you guys can give me.
And just to help clarify, what happened to George was they closed the station and we thought you were gone.
Yes.
So in between that time, I think it was a good 4 years,
Yes.
the Board of Health changed the regulations and capped the amount of tobacco permits that were out there. We didn't know if you were ever coming back, but you did. And so that's why you were put right on the waiting list for whenever a permit was relinquished by another vendor. The board capped it at 18. Unfortunately, I think when you were here, it might have been 19 or possibly 23 permits because the retail tobacco from pharmacies was eliminated as well. But it was unfortunate. I know it was a hardship for you. But we didn't do that intentionally, and you didn't lose it. It just happened to be the process caused you to not be around when all this was happening.
Yeah, sorry, I mean, it
No,
was
you
my
didn't-
my
no,
mistake,
absolutely.
my mistake. I
You
didn't.
lose it,
yeah.
though. You didn't do anything to lose it.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
just the
and sorry,
process.
since 2004 till 2012, I never get any violation. I mean, I never sell cigarette to any minor people. We always check ID.
Yeah.
Yeah, just.
I think previous vendors to you might have been in concern, but that was prior to your license probably, where they were selling to people in the cars. So, no,
Yeah.
said prior to you.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's when it was an issue. So that is in the code that you have in your hand there. The sale has to happen at your register. if you do get the permit. So you have to ask the people to get out of their car to
Yes,
come into the store. You
Yeah.
can't deliver it to them.
yes, yes,
Yep, understand.
yes, thank you.
Is the convenience store up and running currently, or is that still in?
No, now we have like, just little candy and snack.
Oh,
Yeah, candy
okay,
and
good.
snack, and if you guys give us a cigarette, we're going to sell cigarette and lottery, it's gas station. Everybody wanna come to the gas station, get their cigarette, their snack, water,
That's great. Last time I just hadn't seen it. I know you've been doing a lot of renovating and it
Yeah.
looks great. So that's
Yeah.
nice. I'm glad it's.
Thank God,
Yeah.
finally we finished
Yeah,
that.
that's good.
Thank
Work
you.
never ends, still working on it.
No, right, absolutely.
Yeah.
I understand that.
So we're trying to make it better and better every time that we get the chance to.
And you were inspected for your food retail, which is limited, and you were okay with that? Tom
Yeah.
inspected.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. It's up to you.
May I ask a question? What are your current operating hours, and how many employees do you have?
We open 7 to 7 now. Monday
days?
to Saturday.
Monday to Saturday.
Sunday we close.
Okay.
And we are 3 people at the gas station. Me and my brother and another person.
Okay. And is everybody versed in what the
Yes.
policies and the laws are?
Yes, yes.
Well, does anybody have an objection to allowing them to have the permit? I don't. So
I would just have you've read our current regulations, because our regulations have changed since you last held a permit.
Yes.
Do you have any questions?
No,
And
no.
more importantly, do you understand the penalties?
Yes, 100%. I just want to I make sure I never sell tobacco to any minor people. 100%.
It's music to my
I-
ears, my
I-
friend.
I-
Music to my ears.
Always, no matter the age, ask for an ID.
Yes,
Yep.
Because that is very important
Yeah.
for all the processing that we do. If I may, just a couple of notes. Take a good look at section P of the regulations, that's the violations, just to make sure you know. And there's some confusion when you read about characterizing flavors and what's allowed. The only flavors that are allowed are mint, wintergreen, tobacco, and menthol. That's it, no other. So, you will have vendors come to you who want you to sell maybe cherry, peach, whatever. And that goes for all tobacco, that goes for your
Vaping.
not just your vaping, very important for vaping to know that, but the stuff you chew, the chew.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Joint
It's
tobacco.
not-
Chewing
it's not-
tobacco, thank
Yeah.
you. And so, if you have any questions, call us, because I
Yes.
wouldn't want to see you buying this and then find out you can't sell it. And we ran into this just last month, not with you, but there was a retailer that was selling flavors, and he didn't realize it had nicotine in it. And he said, well, they sell flavors at the grocery store. I said, those flavors are for food production. So if someone says, well, this flavor it's not a tobacco product, if it says nicotine on the back of it, it is a tobacco product. So you can't sell that either, because,
Yeah.
again, I know that what happens, the salespeople come to you, and they try to see if you'll buy it, and we don't want you getting stuck with product you can't sell. Anytime you have a
Yeah.
question, just let us know,
Yeah.
and especially the vaping, that's
Yeah.
become a very concerning issue, not just with us, but with parents and so forth, so.
No, I want to make sure I don't do anything wrong. I'm the owner. Not like, I have to make sure everything 100%. And I will make sure all the law, I will apply it 100%.
Yeah, and any questions, just give Mark
Yeah.
a call.
And you will need to sign a form that just says you've read and understood those. So
Yes.
when we issue your permit, you come
Yes.
in, he's paid his, and so,
Starting in July.
and you're starting in July, so you got time to look those over, and then send a letter saying you read them and understand.
Yes,
And then we'll give you your permit.
yes, thank you.
And we'll come down and help you out with the setup.
Thank you very much.
You can't have it out where you can grab it. It has to be behind a
Yes.
counter.
Yes.
That's another one that.
And I think with the new system, I have, what's they call it, the system I have? The POS?
Yeah.
Yeah, we scan
scan.
the license.
Yeah.
If not approved, it will reject it right away.
Card
the
everybody, just card everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Old, young, don't know, just card everybody.
Yeah,
We don't wanna see you back here.
yeah, no.
We like you, but we don't like you that much.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion. Whoop.
I'm just gonna say, can I ask a procedural question, because I know things have changed, is that, does Mark approve this type of list, or do we have to vote for approval?
The board's been approving permits at the end of the year, so,
So we would-
so far with tobacco,
Okay.
I believe, well, I have to think about that, Diane, so.
I just know
we
it
haven't
changed, I just didn't know if we
pretty
needed to
much
approve it or you can approve it.
been giving it to me for, except for certain items, so it's been wishy-washy, but
That's fine, I just,
the board asked that they be here, so you wouldn't have to come back to the board. We can issue it, because that's right, we don't do the list of all the 100 establishments every year any longer.
Correct.
so therefore you would approve it, right?
Yeah, once he signs that
Okay.
he's read and understood.
Just wanna make sure.
Well, it's changed,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's-
have to keep myself up to date, because every year it's been a little different.
So I guess he has the board's blessing then.
Yeah, well, the interview, I think, went well.
Thank you.
Brought them with you.
Do we need a formal
Thank you.
motion?
Well, I think we could encourage the health director to issue a permit to the Ashland Auto Service Center for the sale of tobacco. That the owner has our recommendation.
Thank
Second that. We need a formal vote. All in favor? Aye.
You got a recommendation.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
But Mark's gonna be the one that eventually signs off on it, or doesn't.
So when you have your counter ready of where you're gonna store,
Yes.
give me a call, I'll come down, look, just to make sure it's all, that's in there too. It's all gotta be behind a counter, so someone can't just reach over and grab it and
Yes,
run.
yes,
You know,
Yes.
You lose money and we don't want them starting to smoke.
yes, 100%.
Sure.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
taking
very
the
much.
time to
Thank
come.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to
Appreciate
see
you coming in.
Thank you very much.
Good luck to you.
Good evening.
Good luck.
Thank you.
very much.
If you two could sign on the way out, just so your name especially, so that we can have your name. There's a sign sheet right around the corner, just so we can get your name.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Give me a call.
Nice to see you.
Good to, I'll see you there.
All right.
Yeah, good to see,
Thank
good
you.
to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good night. Just went back.
Thanks, good luck.
Good night.
It was nice.
So, moving on to number 5, since KG is not here, I'd say we can probably table that until the next meeting. Everybody in favor with
Well,
that for the school
before we even
wellness
do
committee?
that, we could probably just ax it because KG had asked me if I was able to go, and I was not able to go at the last
okay.
minute, so we didn't have any representation at that meeting at all.
Okay, understood. Okay, we'll take your recommendation. All right. Thank you. Great. Mark, you're up again. Looks like you got a
That's
busy
fine.
agenda.
Yeah, a few
Today.
updates. They're all
Yeah.
updates.
Okay.
I bet I can get them done in 10 minutes if you want me to.
The clock starts now.
Whatever you need.
Give you
No,
12.
If you have questions, that's okay too. I'm just giving a little tease here. The budget's in front of you. If you should have it in the packet with the blue and light blue color. And this budget for FY18 is in good order, as we always, I've discussed before. There will be some updates for the landfill as time goes on because bills are still coming in. And so you'll see contracted services changing. But when you look at the percentage at the bottom of where, well, basically you go to permanent positions and we should be at 90% and we're at 89.4. But again, that's gonna jump with the contracted services. And the other page is all your programs that are revolving funds and donations, and those are in good order as well.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I mean, Mark, you and I have talked about this contracted service for a landfill for
Yep.
over a decade. And there was chatter that it was eventually gonna come out of our budget. Is it gonna be out of our budget in
Well,
fiscal 19?
if they can find it, there's not much in the budget to find. You'll see under the other line items, they probably, if they could find some money, they may take from our budget, but it'll be limited. At the end of the year, they pretty much, if you have some leftover money, they'll try to apply it to another line.
Right, yeah,
but
we
as
can
it
have that
relates-
conversation about
yeah.
free cash is what my
Yeah.
conversation was gonna be.
But
Is that, we every year we have this same
Yeah,
conversation.
in the next 3 years, hopefully, knock on wood, we won't have any more incidents at the landfill. Hopefully, the gas mitigation will work. We'll be all done with the mitigation. We have been all done, except for when the gas issue came about. We were almost there. In January, we were closing out the landfill 3 years ago. June or May, boom, we had a gas level above the explosive levels, which caused the state to come out and say, you need to put in additional mitigation for gas extraction from the landfill. Not extraction, but it's dissipating from the landfill. We're going to be opening up bids tomorrow, so we should know the regular routine testing cost for the next 3 years. And if that hopefully will remain the same, if not go down, and the reason to say if not go down is the gas testing we do is monthly right now because of the gas issue we had 3 years ago. The state may bring us back to quarterly someday if they find that the new vents you see with the tops down there, there's 29 of them. If those are effective, the state could say in a year or two, or even sooner, you don't have to test it as often. You can go to quarterly testing, but right now we're on monthly testing on the gas
And
testing.
how
at the
far is that
landfill.
test down?
What's that?
How far does that test go down?
Well, they have new gas pipes they put in for collection pipes. They go 10 feet, give or take, average 8 to 10.
You know where
Those
I was
are
going with that.
those are our collection pipes, but we also have now the mitigation pipes, which are as deep. You know, they are put right along the
Right.
sidewalk side of it. Well, near where the rocks used to be.
And Mark, the bidding is also going to be per test, so at least if we're required to do a
Yes, that's a
test,
good
we'll
point.
know,
Yep.
if they say we're required to do a test or two,
Yeah.
we'll at least know what the cost is ahead of time.
Yeah.
So we'll have both, that's the way it's being bid, is both ways. So at least have an idea of if we had to do a test, what a test
Yeah,
would
what
be.
the gas test will be.
But this board gave up a foot of the landfill to the selectmen as well. too.
We gave the top foot. That's correct.
Gave up a foot of it. no?
Yeah, but we control everything below the foot, and that's where all the action is, unfortunately. I don't mean to put it that way, but the decay, you know, and it's just not this landfill, it's any landfill. The decay products are, you know, some of the byproducts we're getting, the gas for sure. That's why, not just this landfill, most landfills require mitigation every 30 years for reshaping, because things sag, the soil sags down when all this trash below starts to decay and you lose volume. And then you also get vinyl chloride, which is a byproduct of oily rags.
Well,
And it
that's-
happens in
that's
a
my
lot of
point, though,
landfills.
Is now we've added construction to the cap.
We eat
We-
solar panels, yeah.
When we reshaped the cap, what is it, 6, 7 years ago now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We finalized
We
it
did-
3 years ago
We
with
didn't
the
do it, yeah, but the
plans.
plan, yeah, but we originally did it. We didn't do the best job at the time, and we made it work. My point is that eventually, there's gonna be another problem with the cap. Hopefully not.
No,
Hopefully
no,
not,
would.
but experience and being
It-
realistic,
it
you know,
could happen.
we will, so.
But are you concerned of what the budget's gonna be? Is like how we're gonna pay for it?
Yeah, is that?
It's
It's-
always, I
I mean,
mean,
it's paid out of capital now, so I'm assuming if there's something in the future, it'll be paid out of,
It could be
capital, I mean-
unforeseen.
there was talk many years ago and recently that eventually that it would come out of the Board of Health's, budget as well, though, too. And I was just wondering if there was any updates on that as well. I mean, it does have to be paid one way or the other, but, you know, it's always been a burden on the Board of Health's budget for
Yeah,
many,
and
many years, so,
It reflects a fluctuating situation,
yes,
you know.
yep, so.
And
I was referring to like the, the large ticket item, I mean,
Yeah,
the larger ticket items, when if it's a resurfacing or something would come out of capital, but, which is how we
But now that we
pay.
have
that sounds reasonable to me, like
The
that. would
solar
be
farm on it, yeah.
something.
Right.
hopefully, yeah, that money being generated, if we had a problem, could help the cause. Our FY19 budget was approved without even a buy. Seemed like town meeting was very busy, and most budgets went through with limited discussion, including ours. So hopefully we are in good order, unless, as you just mentioned, something. That's the only variable I find in our budget, is if something happens with the
It's always the
landfill.
landfill.
Or unfortunately, and the unforeseen that has happened in previous years, is if we had several TB cases. The state mandates a house visit almost daily for medicine adherence. And it's at the local level. We actually had to go to see the finance committee, 20 years ago. You were here for that day, and when we had to ask for additional funds because we had a serious TB case. So that's the only other unforeseen that I can think of at this time.
Is the expectation that the solar farm is gonna generate revenue?
Yeah, oh yes.
So
That's what's presented to us by previous
is
management, I
it
think
reasonable then to
200,000.
request a percentage of that revenue going to a reserve fund for?
That I don't know, Diane. I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't know if it's going to a reserve fund.
I mean, maybe we should suggest that.
I was gonna say, I would definitely have to bring myself to speed. I'm not sure of
Okay.
that. I know that the town is receiving credits for,
Mhm.
I'm not sure how it works with.
Yeah, it's not
Monetary.
monetary.
I
It's
got
it's
you.
credits. yeah.
I got
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't know if there's two parts of it, but
Okay.
I don't know that it's actual
I see.
monetary.
So it's like
Taking all the energy and using it ourselves. It's not like
Yeah.
we're selling
We're
off any
offsetting
of
our
that energy.
utility bills with the,
Okay.
So if we had a,
That was Mary's and my
yeah,
objection to it, is that, it's not cash, it's credits.
that's, our electricity
And-
bill goes.
yeah, and
mitigate
that's
this,
how,
right.
that's actually how we do with all the buildings we have. There is a,
No, I'm just hearing noise. I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, it's been happening for the past few minutes.
Yeah.
Miles, are you hungry?
Is it one of our mics, Miles, that you think's causing that noise?
It might just be the two mics that are close to you.
Okay, well, we'll try to separate them. Okay, just so weird. It's like somebody was pounding down. But yeah.
But it
I
was
think-
about this time
Keeping my
last
belly.
year when we started having rumblings of a gas problem, but you're confident the mitigation.
Yeah, we're hoping that this will resolve it. I expect the state's gonna require a full year to see how everything's working.
I was gonna say, yeah, I mean, John, I'm sure you remember even being on the Board of Selectmen. I mean, the Board of Selectmen and the management have always been good when we say, hey, this is what we're required to do and we need figure. I mean, it's,
Yep.
What was the latest results that,
There were,
just off the top of your
for the
head?
gas, there were a couple, but again, not as many as we've seen in the past, and that's off the top of my head.
Okay.
It wasn't critical, and something that would alarm us to say, we need to do more. Hopefully, we'll continue to see that. There was a more recent report that I haven't had a chance to start the review, but usually I get a call when it's critical.
Yeah.
I'll get a call from the consultant.
Just the only other thing, I'm just interested,
Yeah.
and I don't want you to spend a lot of time, but what exactly does, there's two, and what is exactly does tobacco program
So
mean?
when I come to the Board of Health for a tobacco permit, the fund, that money goes into a revolving fund. So the permit fee of, I think it's 285 or something of that nature, gets deposited in this revolving fund, and then the other fund is to pay for the tobacco agent and services. So that's how Elliott gets paid.
Gotcha.
So the in account is,
That's a nice, that's pretty,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
way
that's-
bigger number than I would assume
we're
you
hoping
would
to,
have.
we're gonna have some training programs. It is a big number,
Yeah.
and we wanna get, Elliot's daughter is willing to start doing some training. The thing that has happened over the past couple of years, we're getting services through a grant. So we haven't had to spend down that account as we expected. We received a grant with several communities, including Natick and Framingham, through the Metro West Health Foundation, but that money ends this year. So, but Elliot's been working for that program as well. In fact, the last hearing he was at, we didn't pay for his services. The grant paid for it, because he conducted that overview with the grant. So we now have asked that he start doing educational programs for the town under our funding. So we're working
That's
on that
that's
as we
great,
speak.
that's a nice way to spend that money.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's about, 5-6 years now we've had that revolving?
Yeah,
We set it up at town meeting.
but if there's other
That's great.
ideas too, we could, within tobacco programs, we could do it, you know. So, one program that might be possible, it might be a far fetch, but parents are very concerned about, I mentioned earlier, juuling and vaping. They're two of the same. One's a company named Juul, so they've got this new name, Julie. But if we could use some of that money for that type of training and sessions for parents, that would be helpful, because it's become a very major concern within society that people are, vaping and juuling and not for sure understanding the consequences of public health, their own personal health, not public health, their personal health. So that might be another area. You want me to go on to the
Yeah.
House Street landfill? I was just on it, so just to let the board know, I've been in communication with Sheila Page, she's our planning agent, as it relates to the status of the connection for those grids to go, for the solar panels to go on the grid, as well as the connection to the berm, which is in front of the landfill. So Sheila explained that she's working with management as it relates to both. The grid itself, receiving electricity, is more of management's decision with National, I think it's National Grid? Eversource. But at the same time, she wants to make sure there's a connection, and pardon the pun, to make, or at least that the berm is completed as part of that, so it doesn't get forgotten. So she's working with management to make sure they put the trees in. They haven't put the trees in yet. So that way, the responsible party that wants to sell electricity to the grid will finalize their commitment to the town, which was the berm, fully vegetated with trees and so forth. So that's still ongoing. You see all the connections, but it's not connected according to Sheila.
we have
Even though
an
you see the
antici-
wires, there's
anticipated
3
date?
wires going up to the power lines.
Do we have any,
She's not for sure, but
what comes first, the connection or the berm?
that's still, they're trying to make those happen at the same time.
Because in the public hearing we had in the basement last year,
Yes.
the berm was gonna be done by now.
They ran
And we were
into season.
reassured
Yeah, I know.
vehemently that it was gonna be done by now, and it's not done by now. I
Couple
know that's
things,
not our purview, but I mean, come on.
Well, I know that a concerned about it was in today, very happy the way it looked, so apparently it must be coming along nice, so I'm assuming it's close.
The grass has grown a little bit on it now, so another issue that happened last year was putting in those gas pipes for the gas mitigation. So when they cut through the berm to put them in, they actually lost soil when they compacted it into the trenches they had to build to connect the pipe in the ground to the vent. It went under the berm and up to the vent pipes. So that created a layer of overview by management and the contractors in getting everyone together. Our contractor for the vapor mitigation, as well as the contractor for the solar panels. It was 3 contractors out there trying to figure out with management what are we to do, and that's what tied up some of it. They had to bring in more fill, and by the time they had all of the berm in place, it was almost snowing. So they just spread grass seed on it to hold it in place, or a matting of some type. So this is the time to be doing the plantings. It's good to hear that even the berm just going up, the residents were happy just to see the berm, but I'm sure they're gonna be very happy now to see the vegetation, so.
Imagine looking out that and seeing that for the last 4 years every day.
Well,
Is that how long it's been? 4 years.
I had hair back when we started talking about this stuff.
the next, if we're done with the landfill solar project, the next one is the Nyanza proposed solar project. There's a proposal from Mr. Gaynor, who owns the property at the top of Nyanza, to invite a company in to put solar panels up on that cap. And it's recommended, actually, not recommended, but the EPA basically approves, just like the DEP with our landfill, this type of use. It's passive to their view and is as damaging as possibly a golf course or something like that. Problem is Mr. Gaynor has to resolve some commitments to the town before we hear any more discussion on this matter. So it's kind of in a stalled position at this point. So until Mr. Gaynor resolves commitments to the town, it's in stalled pattern. And that's all I can report on that. I mentioned
Have we
this.
had a Mr. Gaynor sighted in the,
Yes.
lately? Okay, good.
The next one
They'll give you my inside information.
Yep.
on on section D, I apologize, but I already gave that update within Tom's discussion on the food program. We are reviewing various vendors right now for software and the food application. Everything will play into the software. Presently, from the two that we have seen, I do like the idea of availability of multiple hardware uses, such as your cell phone or a tablet. It makes it easier to go into these facilities and not have a laptop that's heavy and so forth. And so we're hoping by the time we get the last vendor review to see how the prices compare, but we may be going with something that you can actually use cell phones as well.
You're talking about for you to do the inspection reports?
Yeah, anyone. Tom could use his cell phone or tablets and so forth, so it's easier.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the easier it is, the better we all are off,
Yeah.
because we're more productive. You know, we can be more productive, so looking forward to that day. So that's why we're holding off on hardware consideration. We were thinking of another tablet until we figure out our software availability and what it can do.
And IT has gotten some good deals on some tablets. We use them for
Good.
DPW for field work as well. So
Surfaces and so forth.
I'm not too sure what product it is,
They're-
but I
they're
know
all
we've
good.
bought them for
Yeah.
DPW workers, same
Excellent.
thing, for them
Good.
to do entries out in the field. It's a lot easier.
Oh, so much. Everything, we won't have paper in our office. I promised Laura she won't see any paper in my office in 2 years. I had to give myself 2 years to. I've been filling it up with paperwork you've given me, and I've collected. I won't blame you. I've collected most of it. This summer, we are going to have another summer intern. This will be the 6th summer of an intern. I enjoy the program. I like to see people grow in the field of public health. Rory Ostro, he met with me, came in last Monday. Very nice young gentleman, very energetic. He goes to Tufts University. He's going for his master's in public health. His main interest, outside of shadowing what I do, is to work in substance abuse. So I've already connected him to various officials in our town from decisions that have returned to Kristen French, who works for the town, and others, to get him jump-started in that. Especially, he's very interested with the opioid crisis. So I think there'll be a third out of 6 interns that have had that interest, which is very important. So it's the leading issue, I think, in public health as we speak. So, but today I unfortunately heard on the news that the level of opioid deaths in Massachusetts are going down.
Down
So
5%
it was so good to
last
hear.
year, yeah.
The efforts are paying off, I believe. So. The bagel table, as one person said at our management meeting this week, they're just at a different pace than most. So the level of work done down there is still structural. They got holes for the plumbing and in the floor, and I expect that we may be talking about them in the next 2 months, maybe. I don't see it next month, but you never know. They may go faster than what I can expect them to go. So that'll be something we'll hopefully see. And the Narcan program, I'm working with Nancy, our public health nurse, for various ways to not just do the training. We do the training, Nancy and I, but we're also finding that one of the towns, same size as this town, Hudson, has actually had more requests for Narcan than we have. It could be a variety of reasons, but one thing that Nancy's doing for me is finding out how they're reaching out to the public. And they're doing it through not just one Facebook, but like possibly another Facebook with the fire department, which we reached out to Chief Roby, and sending him these flyers as well. So looking at any possibility of letting people know that our department, and doing it right now, has Narcan for free. We meet confidentially, not in our office, not in this big wide room. We'll meet with them in a private, quiet area, and no one needs to know who they are when they come in, and the Narcan's for free, and we're hoping families that may see the need for this will come in and obtain the Narcan. And we'll do the 15, 30-minute training that is pretty much part of the program.
The young lady from Framingham, whose name is totally escaping
Kelly
me.
Joseph.
Yes, she is coming.
Is that who you meant?
Yes, she is coming to our Rotary meeting on Thursday to talk about more public outreach about how to get Narcan out.
Good.
I do believe like the Natick police chief is going to be there, so
Excellent.
I mean,
We can all learn from each other. This is
I
new.
was gonna say,
It's new and.
now, where is this flyer being distributed digitally and
Yes,
is it
we have it on
hanging
the
anywhere?
counters. Fire department is now gonna put it on their counters.
To
We're
police?
Police, I believe, I can't say for sure, but
Yes,
we,
right.
police as well.
I mean, it'd probably be good to go next to the sharp container, you know, like,
Yep, yeah. Or even a medicine take-back container.
and, you know, I mean, they always say no, but we can always encourage them to say yes. This
Yeah.
might be good to put at the local pharmacies as well, too.
Yeah.
And I could take that initiative on, because I've
If you
done that
would
in the
like,
past. yeah.
it's been discussed at the regional level. Not easy to get in
No,
those
it's
stores.
not easy, but I often don't take no
Yeah.
for an answer, so.
They are selling it also, so
Sure.
that's why, that's just, you're ready for that, that's fine.
No, I understand, but I mean,
Or
I'd
even
love
through
to-
our Facebook page, if the second, every once in a while, you know,
Yep.
Beth Reynolds, if she can
Yep.
just throw it out there.
She did for us a couple times,
Okay.
and we'll keep asking. She doesn't mind. She's one of our
no, the
neighbors.
unfortunate reality that we're living in is maybe this goes on the snack shack up at Stone Park, it goes up,
Yeah.
you know, at the ball fields, I mean,
I see it that way.
that is the reality of the
Corner
world.
Spot
we're in.
has a bulletin board too.
Yep, that's another great point, Chris.
Well, I even see the Narcan possibly going in places where AEDs are located. And the reason I say that is, you can pull the Narcan out of the bag and there's a card that it's the nostril spray. All you really do is, even if you don't know to lay the person down and tilt their head, doesn't matter. And if you would give it to someone that's having a heart attack, it doesn't matter. You're not going to kill them. But hopefully you'll be calling 911. That's the first thing that everyone should do, no matter if they're grabbing an AED or they're going up to a person that needs assistance. You call 911 first, no matter what. We teach that in stroke education too. Don't waste any time. Call 911. It's so important, because then, at least if you're partially aware of what to do, you know the experts are right behind you.
Right.
So
Is this only available for residents, or is it available like if there's a business?
a business is more than welcome to it. It's
Just
available
thinking
in
the same
general.
thing if there's a
Yeah,
business.
yeah, that's a good point.
But
Diane.
getting
I
back
could
to that
get to the
meeting that
couple
you
of them.
had attended, Mark, a couple
Yes,
weeks ago,
yeah.
that we had with the sheriff and everything,
Awesome, I'm just
is
gonna-
that we're gonna start working on a grant program for businesses to start teaching their staff how to administer Narcan. Because unfortunately what it is, I think if this is everywhere, it encourages conversations from even the family and your peers level, is that the reality is that we need this now. And there's an article today that, you know, the deaths have gone down, and I would challenge the deaths have only gone down because of Narcan. The problem hasn't gone away, it's just, we're just managing the problem better. But I don't
that's
think,
been discussed.
and I
too.
don't think we can get this in enough places,
I
because
agree.
maybe it saves one life, and isn't one life worth, you know, doing that?
Yeah.
But, you know, if it's there and a child says, you know, hey, what's Narcan? Might encourage a conversation from peers and from parents, and, because, I mean,
It might be worth
not
a few
going
minute
away.
conversation at some of the school events as well, because I know they have a lot of education for the parents and kids.
Just like with head
So
concussion.
just to offer it, just to maybe do a little outreach to the schools too.
Good idea.
well, only because it's the topic, and I know we talked about, wait until KG gets back, but I mean, I thought Mark brought up a great point with Julian, and with this, is that, you know, maybe we talked about this board becoming a more proactive community board, again, is that, you know, maybe we schedule something up at the high school and the middle schools, and we talk about Julian, we talk about vaping, we talk about Narcan.
Well, they seem to have a lot of panels or,
Yeah.
events that, you know,
Yeah.
even
But,
if
you
you
know-
did a 15-minute presentation and as part of there, like I said, and being proactive instead of reactive.
Yes, and, you know, I mean, a lot of parents probably have questions about vaping and, you know, and
Right.
juuling that they don't know, and, you know, or don't know the questions to ask about Narcan. I think we should get back to that this year.
All right.
And I know we've got the buy-in between police, fire, and, you know, decisions every turn.
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
in decisions every turn. All good stuff. It all helps. The next one is, I talked about it already. The landfill request for proposals tomorrow, the opening. I've heard we've gotten 3 bids so far, so that's good. And we'll see differences in what's being offered to us. Beaver control, I had to administer a permit, issue a permit for the land at the start of Oak Street, down Oregon Road, on the north side of Oregon Road to the Oregon Club. Not where the houses are, but right after you leave the houses, you'll see from the point of Woods to Oregon Club, water's building up in there again. And it's been a problem in the past, and what it is, it's the beavers, they're attracted to that large mass of trees and water, and unfortunately, the Mass Turnpike goes over all that water, and they have a culvert to allow the water to go between the turnpike and the other side of the same area. And so the beavers tend to block it up.
There were
And-
2 beavers in the road the other last Thursday morning.
Really?
2 beavers and 2 turkeys, and me, so probably 3 turkeys.
In that same vicinity by any chance?
What's that?
In the same vicinity at all?
The turkeys were on the, if you were heading towards Framingham, the turkeys
Yeah,
were on the
that's
right-hand side and the beavers were on the left. I actually thought it was a cat at first.
If it's
because
right
it was
near the
like-
exit sign for Framingham, it says exit 21 or whatever it is, not 21, it's Boston. But whatever, it's right near that exit sign. That's what, if you, I had a look, because you normally don't look to your side when you're driving on the highway, but I said, that's it right there, there's the water bay. It's a large body of water there between the Oregon Club and the Turnpike. But the trapper is Malcolm Spiker. He's a registered trapper, so he's going out there to trap. But the one issue they do have is that the culvert and the water level are too shallow to put in the water lowering control devices. Those are 20-foot pipes to each end of the culvert. So they're going to put fencing around both sides of the culvert to try to prevent the damming in that area. So they're cleaning out the dam that's been made and removing some of
Type
the
of
beavers. It's usually just like a wire fence. They make it in a circular pattern. I've seen them before in other same kind of situations where it's just water level's just too low at the culvert is the problem. So they have to have, I think, 3 feet of water to use water lowering control devices. One place you'll see one that was used like that, but they had to go over the dam, was on Shore Road, where the water was, you were having damming, but the water was too shallow, so they actually took the pipe over the dam itself to get the water to move across the dam. So there's various ways, but this gentleman's worked on it before, and he works for the state, he works for the DOT. So hopefully it'll go away. I spoke to the manager of the Oregon Club, who was very nervous. He was very thankful at the same time that we worked on it as fast as we did. So, but he's still nervous. He wants to go down as the rain we had over the weekend brought it back up again. So they were supposed to be out there Friday. I hope they get out to do it. The next one, we already discussed part of it, and that was the Mass Environmental Health Association's conference, which was held last Wednesday. It was very interesting. It was their annual meeting they have, and they talked about some trends I wasn't even aware of. And one of them that we're seeing that you may know of is float tanks. Never heard of float tanks. Is anyone here? I never heard of them until I went to this conference and saw pictures. It is a major industry for people to go into these very high salt content water bodies and you just float.
Yeah.
But the issue becomes, how do we handle it under the public health codes? Because you can't chlorinate salinated water, so in all respects you have to find other ways to treat that water, and the salt water itself usually isn't a problem when it comes to bacteria, but it becomes a problem for pumping it and keeping it refreshed, because it basically, as they were saying, causes corrosion to the equipment. It's so salty. Even the air that these are in can cause corrosion to electrical conduits and so forth. So there's a whole industry now looking at these. They use magnesium sulfide in these tanks, and the National Sanitation Foundation is working on regulations. They were stalled a little bit, but they're looking at ways to control both the sanitation end of it as well as any other issues such as electrical. UV light is one way to treat these water bodies, but it can be expensive. So the turnover of the water is what they're usually looking at. And also disposal. You dispose this much product of salt, you can corrode the pipes as well as septic systems they couldn't put in. But if they were to place this in a septic system, it would basically make it defunct in no time. So they will have to put it just into the ground. Another area I never heard of is what we call cold or cryotherapy. People go into these chambers with their head only exposed. It's like a round chamber, and then they start forcing cold air on them to a point to help to eliminate certain diseases is what they're trying to say with this. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, cold
Yeah,
therapy.
it's probably just, most inflammatory things,
Yeah,
like
they-
Tom Brady
they
dipping
did-
himself in.
I think they
players
mentioned
dipping
Tom
themselves
Brady in
in
one of
ice. They
these.
probably did,
Yeah.
so.
But again, it brings us into the picture. Dedham was looking into the national standards, and some of the concerns they would have is one, consulting with a medical provider, making sure they're healthy enough to do this, and other areas is foot and hand protection when you walk into this unit, so you don't burn your hands or your feet through the cold air. It's a fog that they push at you, a cold fog, probably from dry ice.
I think liquid nitrogen.
Liquid nitrogen, thank you.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've never heard of these, and all of a sudden, so if
Which has
indeed.
its own set of needs for handling properly.
I see. So that, is another issue that we may see, so maybe as I
Familiar
hear,
with any of them around here?
I haven't heard of anyone wanting to do this in town, but we may want to be proactive. I'm going to look into Dedham's regulations, see what they look like, and maybe adopt. We can, not me, but the board can consider adoption. In the float tanks, no one has regulations yet, but there are federal standards that if someone was to come in, we could tell them, well, at least follow the National Sanitation Foundation recommendations and do that. Another area we discussed was rodent control. They're using dry ice now for burrows outside. It's very effective. They die when the carbon dioxide gets released from the dry ice and just kills the rodents right in place inside the burrow holes and prevents mice from getting into the buildings. And that was another new trend that's out there, and it doesn't
Considered
pollute.
humane.
It's humane. It's very humane. They say they die peacefully. You don't. How do they know? I don't know.
Well,
But that's
yeah,
what the
I
best
think
lobster
people are.
scream
I
when
think
you
it's
boil
important
them,
if
yeah,
we're, if we're promoting that type of thing in town, there are going to be people in town who will
Yeah.
ask that
Yeah.
question.
Oh,
So
yeah,
we
it is.
need to be
They said
prepared
it's
for it.
more humane in other ways.
Yeah.
So flooding isn't, drowning is another humane way,
Mhm.
like we do with beavers and so forth. So, but that is a very important part. Even when it comes to beavers, we have people that refuse entry to their properties to remove beavers because they want the beavers to survive. And so we have a beaver population issue. We may have to trap them on either side of certain properties where people will say no to permission to trap. So it does happen. Then we had a fantastic lunch. This was held down, I've never been there, Lake Pearl in Rentham. Unbelievable. I'm like, where'd this place come from? It was nice. And in the afternoon, we saw Lisa Berger. She was, one of the people actually is a vendor, so she noted that, but she didn't talk about her products. She talked about the trends in 2013 food code. And the last person there was talking more about what we're seeing more of, and that's, Tom brought up the spice company. There are different ways to produce foods. Might it be vacuum packaged foods now we see more of. We have a person right here in town vacuum packing her product. It's a gluten-free bread. Pickling, canning, and all that. More and more that's being found at farmers markets. If you go to our farmers market, there's several people that do their own canning or have industries that do. And so she was involved with the Department of Agriculture to let us know there are procedures in place to make sure we're not creating any foodborne illnesses from their processing. So very interesting. A lot of this was new to me. You can learn something new every day, I feel. So. But, as time goes on and I can get these like the one for the cold therapy, I'll see what I can do and see if we can adopt it. Next one was town water quality reports. I don't know if you got them in the mail. I
Yeah,
brought
yeah.
extras if you didn't, so. Okay.
Got a bill with it.
It came with the bill?
Came
Oh,
with the
I'm
bill.
sorry, I
Came
didn't
with
even
the
bring it
bill.
up then. Well, we should have them, and we have a stack of them in our office if people ask for them and so forth. And I'm working with Mike on the next item, public health emergency. Well, I can wait while you look at that.
Oh, no, I read it already.
Okay, and I'm working with Michael Gurnick, our Medical Reserve Corps Chair, and different equipment we might need for the Medical Reserve Corps trailers. So within the next month, we're going to be looking at a vaccine refrigerator. The one we have, believe it or not, is old, even though it's only about 2013 years old, give or take 12 years old. It's outdated for the need to store vaccine and cold storage for vaccines, as well as he felt the equipment in the trailer, even though that's very old, like gloves and masks, were in good condition, even though they got outdated dates on it. The dates are outdated. He said what we really could use, and we're gonna try to get them, are piston jacks, he said, for the tires of our trailer, because they sit so long that it's not healthy for the wheels, so we're gonna look into getting some piston jacks in the trailer, and some other items that we need for the Medical Reserve Corps and for public health emergency preparedness. And that's my report. I did that in about 20 minutes.
More than 10 minutes.
Okay,
For
I-
those scoring it.
Good
That's
job,
pretty
Matt.
good. That wasn't much more.
Hey, can I just ask more about the Medical Reserve Corps?
Sure.
We haven't had him in here. He's a great guy. He's a great asset. We haven't had him in here in 4 or 5 years.
Great idea.
Might be a good idea.
Yeah, I can-
Because I don't think the public totally understands what they do, but.
And he is working with Kitty Mahoney in Framingham, who is their public health nurse, but also coordinates the MR's Medical Reserve Corps over there, and seeing if we can have other programs together, as well as be our own individuals at times when we need to be. But I agree, so if the board's okay, I'll invite him into a meeting. He is a great guy, by the way, I agree with you. We've been very fortunate to have him on our Medical Reserve Corps as a chair for as long as he has been. I love these notes you can do in your sticky notes on your computer. That way they're right there when I turn the computer on in the morning. But any certain meeting you'd like him at, or just see what his schedule looks like?
Yeah,
Okay,
if you want to take
Beautiful.
that on, that'd be
Yeah.
great. Okay,
that's it.
anything else?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Did everybody get a shot to read the minutes that Laura did a great job on again? At least
As
my
always.
opinion.
As always.
Yeah, as always is correct. I didn't know that you feel comfortable voting on these, Diane? Do you?
I would probably abstain just because I wasn't here. So
Okay.
maybe you would,
I didn't know
there's
if
3 of
you-
you here, so.
Okay.
They would still.
I'm happy to make a motion to accept as presented.
I will second that. Yeah. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And abstain, okay. That's great. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
Nice job again, as usual. Great. Anybody with anything to either add for next time? The only other thing that I would want to bring up, just because we had kind of canceled on CC Doucette, she wanted to give a 15-minute presentation at some point. Certainly doesn't have to be, next time. It can be if I can reach out to her if.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
She deserves the right to
Yeah,
present.
agreed. Okay. So if you don't mind, I'll ask her if she can, and she'll take 15 minutes, and whatever other time you'd like to ask her questions. Okay, great. Thank you.
The only thing I wanted to mention is that I know that the Board of Selectmen does it, and I assume they did it when you were on the board, John, is that they had a consent agenda. So those items that the board made a motion, to basically not discuss and just approve all of them. So you didn't have to discuss items that
A
were just
consensus type
notifications,
agenda.
right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted, that might take some of the time off our schedule if we have busy meetings, so it's something to consider in the future. If that would, work with items that if Mark has items that could be on a consent agenda.
Just like the beaver permit, a consensus, it's okay, go.
Right, and then the board can make a motion, to approve, the consent agenda, and it would be all the items listed. It wouldn't be something that you would discuss each item, but if you wanted to pull one out, you could. I don't know if you did that when you were on the board.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
And it just, it's a notification so everybody's aware of it, but you don't specifically discuss each item unless somebody pulls one out.
Has a question. Just to piggyback kind of what Diane said, and we talked about becoming more proactive and reaching out to the public, is that, now that, we're basically a policy board, we're not 100% policy board, but we're about a 90% policy board. One thing, that worked well years ago, and especially even when Diane was here, is, that I don't want to use the word subcommittees, but, hey, you got a project, you got a project, you got a project, you're going to report on your project the first meeting, I'm going to report on the project the second meeting, and we work projects all year long, and we might not come to a conclusion on them for 6 months, 8 months, but at least we're working on
Right.
projects, and we're giving lack of progress updates, or we're giving updates on stuff, and I think that's
That's the way
Like,
you, yeah.
I think we can be in and out of here in an hour, hour and a half, but we're working on projects, you know, you have to be careful with open meeting law and not breaking open meeting law, but, you
And
know.
hopefully it would take some
Mm.
of the workload off of Mark as well, if
Absolutely,
everybody
yeah,
had
yeah.
a meeting or a project that they were working on.
Everybody has a project, you know,
Right.
even if it's a small project, everybody works off a
Right.
project, and, we kinda coordinate it and, you know, help,
Yep.
help you guys, you know, guide the department a little bit more. I think that would be good. And, you know, we could be in and out of here. in an
And I
hour.
think we could get a lot done.
Yep, a lot of that done, yeah.
Good ideas.
But, you know, with that, you know, I think having CC come in is, you know, you know, if we're gonna do a board reorg next meeting, whatever that is going to be, and then kinda have, and it's just a suggestion, kind of bring like what you want to work on to the next meeting for the next calendar year, expectations, and maybe a quick, and the key word is quick, review of our policies and procedures, see if there's any tweaks to that would need to be done, and then, you know, kind of set our next meeting as a vision, and it's, once again, just a suggestion, as a vision setting type of meeting versus, you know, do CC and
Right.
then that and anything that Mark
If
hopefully
if-
doesn't come up with, you know, for the meeting. Kind of set a vision for the next, you know, calendar year.
Okay.
And
I
then
mean, we
hopefully
can
KG
certainly,
will be back by then.
you know, put that off until.
Now, did you find, John, when you were on the Board of Selectmen, that the retreats were helpful for that versus doing it publicly? Just to sit as a group and run a round table?
You know me, I'll never say anything, you know, that I won't say in public and or in private.
No, that's
but
fine,
yeah.
I just didn't
But
know if
yeah,
it would be
but
better
yeah.
to do more of a retreat
Yeah,
to
well, I mean,
brainstorm.
That's
within-
not a horrible idea, yeah, it's not a horrible
That's
idea.
something to consider. I know the Board of
Something to
Selectmen
think
does it, I
about.
think, once or twice a year.
I mean, that is part of the negotiation I had, well, it was then with Northeastern, but
Yeah.
when we bought Warren Woods, that we would have access to, you know, the Warren
Right.
Conference Center for those type of such events.
Right.
And,
But
I
even
know.
if we met at, you know, the library or something, just.
Yep.
to-
They have a
to-
nice little house on the prairie right up the street.
22 Elliott.
22 Elliott, the old 4-H club.
Yep.
It's a
Yep.
beautiful home. I love old homes. It's a beautiful home.
No, it's not a horrible idea, yeah, it's really good. But I think we need to have a vision for the,
Yeah.
you know, the next calendar year, at least.
Mr. Chairman, can I have?
Are we
one
up next year?
positive?
Is this our last year?
What, positive?
I'm sorry?
He wants to say something positive.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Short and sweet, Mark, we're making record time here.
Not record time. Dr. Repo, maybe.
Easy peasy. Welcome to a new world. This is how a board should be working. And to John's point about the policies, that was always my thinking, is when is that gonna actually get started, and now you won't have to have everybody together on it. May the board work together, formulate together, and as all be one, to be one together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
Can you make that into a bumper sticker?
Yeah, right.
Related to the talking about next meeting and
Yeah.
moving forward, a couple of quick things. First, I think it's important that I want to just say thank you to everyone in town who took the time to fill in the circle next to my name for voting. I know that I ran unopposed, but I never took for granted that you had the right to fill in that circle next to my name. And for those of you that chose to do it, I appreciate it. For the ones who didn't fill in the circle next to my name, I'm still here to serve you. To that point, we discussed before election that if I should remain on the board through election, that my June calendar was planned long before I was ever a part of this board, and I have some date conflicts. So if, in fact, the board decides that we're going to maintain those first and third Wednesdays as our firm meeting, I support that completely, because I'm all for the idea of the consistency and complying with the charter and the way it is. I won't be here for those days. If there is consideration for rescheduling one of those meetings so that I can be at one of them, just for the purposes of benefiting the board, I'd appreciate that, but I'm here to support the board in any way moving forward that
So-
makes it work function best.
So so you're saying that the what, the 5th and the 19th are spoken for you already.
The 5th, 12th, and 19th
I mean,
actually
I'd
are,
like to,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we'd all probably like to have everybody have an equal say,
Yeah,
at least in
those-
the reorg
I
anyway.
won't even be in town for 2 of them.
Okay.
Is there another evening that would be better? Is it just those?
I have space on, other than the week of the 4th, I'm in Cleveland for business, but the other weeks, the second and third
Well,
week,
why
I do
don't
have
you-
flexibility.
Why don't you shoot us an email with the dates that you are
Sure.
available, and then we can see if we can make some, at least for
Sure.
the board reorg meeting.
Absolutely.
Because I think
Yep.
you deserve to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make it as easy on the board. I don't want to be
No,
an
I-
inconvenience to the board.
But you're definitely not here June 5th or 12th.
Correct.
5, 12,
Yeah.
19, you're not. Okay.
Yeah.
And our next meeting technically would be the 5th.
Yeah.
Or you, not to broadcast your public schedule to anybody, but are you out of town that whole week or?
The week of the 4th through 7th, I'm away.
4th through the 7th?
I'm out of town.
But hypothetically, you would be in town, well, next week is Labor Day. Yeah, so, okay.
Yeah,
I'm out
even
of
if-
town the second week.
Even
as
if we
well.
had just a short meeting, even if it was just for the reorg, I mean, to, just, when you were
Well-
here, that might be helpful, just to be
Mhm.
able to move things along, then we wouldn't be bound by,
Yeah.
not that I don't want to include you, but.
No,
yeah, and-
absolutely.
And I respect what you say.
Again, the
Well, I think-
work of the board is the most important. My commitment to this board is genuine. And I've already marked the 1st and 3rd Thursdays
No,
on
I'm
my
sure you
calendar
have.
for the next 3 years. They're marked off.
Well, maybe if we send our schedule to Laura, because we also have to find out when KG may be a few weeks, and we don't know
Yeah,
how
Yeah,
long
that's
we
he's
don't know
true.
what his
going to be
situation
available,
is.
but, so, I mean, June might be
It's a
I'm
funky
on
one.
vacation for a week as well, so.
Well,
Okay.
And
typically,
even if we don't reorg until we have a
Wow.
full board, we can still have meetings.
and that goes back to my,
Okay.
my earlier comment about policies and procedures, so, because that is in our policies and procedures. I mean, I know this is a one-off, and of course we have to, I think we did the right thing tonight, but we do have policies and procedures for that, though, too.
It
so.
says we won't reorg until there's a full board?
No, it doesn't say that.
Oh, it does not say that?
It does not say that, no, but it does say that this is the meeting where you do reorg. But I understand and totally respect the situation, but yeah. But I don't think you want to push it off much longer, but in the interim, but yeah.
But like Ron said, even if KG comes back, I mean,
Right.
we have a quick meeting
Yep,
next
yep,
week and
absolutely. Yep.
reorg and
Absolutely.
a couple items. and-
Well, that's what I'm saying. It would be best and out of respect to everybody's schedule to kind of schedule something now for next week.
Well, just, I
Because
can-
Monday's a holiday
Yeah,
anyways.
I mean, I can.
'Cause you're looking
you
at
mean
posting
for
for-
the I mean,
For whatever you had in mind.
no, the only thing that I would just ask, and I can just shoot an email saying, don't respond, is, I know KG's wife as well, and I can get maybe a little bit of info from her about when she thinks he might be
Uh-huh.
back,
Okay.
before we make it
Right.
more definitive,
Yep.
if
That's the right
that's
thing to
okay.
do. Yeah. That's the right
Just so we can see, I mean, if it's
Yeah.
not, if it's indefinite or it's gonna be 3 or 4 weeks, then
Right.
I think he would respect the fact that we had to
Right, we have
move
to
on.
continue.
And, okay.
But in the only thing, because Monday's a holiday, so you've got to look at the
Right.
postings, and, Diane can help you with that,
Right.
and Laura can help you with that, but you've got to look at that, because that plays a caveat. If we're going to meet sometime next
Right.
week, we
Right.
got to probably post by Thursday, so.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
All right, well,
And I do know
Gotta juggle
that
all those balls. right?
yeah, no, understood.
the
Well-
reason we, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we could always post, and then if we had to just cancel it, because we,
Right,
if
right,
we had
yeah.
to, just if we're running out of time.
But it's easier just to post
Yep.
Right.
than.
Oh. See, I didn't even think about doing that. Okay.
The reason we went, just the 1st and 3rd was, we were having conflicts with the ZBA. They needed this room is what it was. And then the 2nd and 4th, I used to get that always mixed up. Now I have it down pat, unless it changes again. But they needed, sometimes they're reviewing items that need to be televised. So
And
that's
public
why,
hearings, yeah.
yeah, so. But tonight they were willing to move, because we're on our 4th Tuesday tonight. So they, because of the elections and all, so they were willing to move downstairs. They didn't have as critical of an agenda as they sometimes do. That's one of the reasons we're 1st and 3rd.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn then.
Oh, just hold it. Anything else that anybody, all right, I'll agree with that. If anybody else has anything they'd like to be put on, just email me. We can get it on.
For next week, or when,
For the,
the
or
next
whenever the
agenda.
next meeting is. Okay. All right. I'll second John's motion.
And I will
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.